that you wish to go. I would never, you know, look at a way of disrespect with these amazing teachers, these molecules, these chemical structures that are built in ways that catch energies and manners that have been able to bring us into places of great freedom and high rates of acceleration previously never seen possible. But man has found a way to get these chemicals from things and to even make them pure, you know, without the consciousness of the plant materia or the animal in which it was going. And I'm not saying that these consciousnesses are beautiful, absolutely, but you know, are these consciousnesses able to rise the same as a human consciousness? And a lot of people have the ability to think that humans are wrong, that we are like the least on creation or something. You look at the dog eating the bunny rabbit and you think, wow, what a beautiful thing, much better than I. You look at the lion in his full prowl and you think, what a great, amazing, beautiful creature as he's tearing apart a gazelle and its entire family. Now, I'm not saying these things are wrong, but it's just interesting for you to think of them as better than yourself when you don't do these things. You can see them as perfect, but you cannot see you. You would not do this. Evil act is what we usually would judge it to be. But that's because we don't see it as evil when nature does it. We see it as pure. We see it as perfect. This is nature. We say this. This is nature. Of course it's okay, no problem. It's just nature. That cat killed that baby bunny. It was just nature. You tell your child. Just nature. It's alright. This is okay. If you go up and kill this bunny in the same way this cat does, you're evil and wrong. You know better. You know, and actually a child may not know better. If a child has never seen this happen before, the teachers never discussed this with them, their teachers, their parents, or whatever, and then you come up and you find your child just killed a bunny rabbit. And you're like, and a baby bunny rabbit at that. And you're like, oh no, you know, but you're still not going to think of your child as wrong. You're still not going to think, oh, my child's an evil person, depending on how they killed it. If you thought, like, if you saw, like, a bunch of sticks stabbing into it, and like, all kinds of crazy, like, torturous way, you might think of your child as evil. You might start to become kind of afraid, like, oh, my child is the makings of a serial killer. Holy shit. You know, but you still, being a parent, seeing it for the very first time, knowing the child didn't know better, you still may find an innocence able to be reflected to the child. You know, you're not wanting to put him in prison for the rest of his life or anything. Some parents are pretty extreme, though, and may think that. But, but you know, we can usually tell, okay, this person is learning, they don't know what they're doing. You teach them, you know, they have another opportunity. So maybe after the first bunny rabbit has a bunch of holes inside of it, you tell it, no, son, this is why, and then you go through the process of seeing if your son learns why or not. Typically, we are endowed with a great amount of emotional capacity for compassion, and then we learn from things around us, you know, away from our compassion or away from this or that or the other, or even deeper into a more ignorant form of compassion. We can be moved in many ways. But it's hard for us to judge nature. Now, if only we could see that we were nature. If only we could see that we are almost like the greatest creation within nature. I mean, what can you look at that has a better intelligence than us? You could say, oh, but the dolphins, oh, but the octopus, oh, but the whales. Well, that's great. They're still eating and raping and fucking and doing whatever else. I mean, you could actually be raped by a dolphin. Okay, if they're higher intelligence than us, then I guess rape's okay or something. The animal kingdom has a lot of rape, and I'm not an advocate for rape. I'm just an advocate for the releasing of judgment, so that we can understand the perfection of all that is. And these extreme chord shapes are the biggest things that are causing us dissonance. It's easy to not judge happiness or some mundane ignorance, but it's harder when it's a very physical reaction. It's harder not to judge that. I mean, even for myself, I have big trouble. You know, I look at that and I see the volatility and I'm like, oh, geez. But for me, I know it's not the person doing it, so I have a lot less judgment. I know that there's not a doer happening here within the river of life, so I don't have any reason to judge you for your actions. I don't have any reason to judge myself for my actions in that way. I just have every reason to become extremely discriminatingly aware of what it is that is occurring, especially if it causes me agitation or disturbance, so that I may learn from it, refine, and grow as quickly as possible. And so that's really what consciousness is looking for, is for us to just refine, learn, and grow. Not trying to judge us, just trying to give us situations that we can learn from with as quick as possible a mind or whatever, you know, a focus as possible. And that's why I do believe why consciousness, the most perfect creation of oneness, the most amazing marrying of wisdom and compassion, has given us these amazing teachers, these medicine teachers, these gateways, these bridges. Of course, consciousness is not going to let us go into things in ways that aren't reflective of how we are with ourselves truly. And so, if we want to come into conscious harmonization with all of consciousness, then we're going to have to really exude the criteria of what consciousness is directly doing. Not the indirectness that we happen to be perceiving and defining things, but the direct actual occurrence of consciousness, which is always for its benefit, always moving in a way of great harmony and bliss for the benefit of all beings entirely, individually and collectively. So we're going to have to understand through these judgments and through these chord shapes how these things are happening. And I am moving through understanding how my expression, no matter if it seems to go this way or that way, is always of perfection. And always on time and necessary, even if there's a mistake, or even if there's this, or even if there's that. And so that's a big thing, we think that there's a perfection that is perfect in the way it makes no mistakes. And that is true, that even its mistakes are not mistakes. And so we don't need to work away from mistakes or work away from judgments or work away from these things in certain manners. We just come to understanding intellectually, logically, what it is that's occurring, and then we get to rewrite our reality with what is true instead of what was false. And what was false was in a way trueness, as it was leading us to this amazing thing. But eventually we can understand that we're going to, again, create imagery for ourselves and all kinds of routes and motionings to understand how things are working with what we call a duality or polarity in focus, but is actually still a singularity, just using itself in amazing weaving patterns of endless knot style reality prisms. And we'll be able to come into that in a really amazing fashion. Right now, I'm just, bringing through all kinds of different things, really just coming to greater rates of trust, greater places of understanding how it is that we're moving through things through the route of expression. So this was actually a cool teaching and reflection, because I just did that for myself in a big way. I found this place of doubt here within this conversation about the pedophile stuff, and it's the hardest one that I had to bring into relation, how it's perfect with murderers and thieves and all these things, stealers. And then also the righteous ones, who are actually the ones creating the need for these opposite reflections, more so maybe even than the other guys in a certain sense. The other guys are creating the need for reflections of themselves as a beautiful thing, and you guys are creating the need for yourselves as reflections as an ugly thing. That way the beautiful thing and the ugly thing can come into one and see itself as perfect as it is, instead of trying to create itself in dissonance and separation to say, I am only the good, or I am only the bad, and then we can find the equanimity that's the in-between. Now, I'm going to watch with scrutiny this video after this, I'm sure, because I have a lot of judgment and dissonance and depression, or not depression, but doubt and insecurity about this ever since that chord shape entered the mind of our flow. And I was hoping that at the end of this flow that we would come to a place where I was no longer exuding that, and you could see the great beauty of myself. In some way, I'm sure that I am. But it's also a beautiful poetry to show that, hey, this isn't necessary, that there's all kinds of things that could happen after I turn this off that get brought to the surface and are worked through with me, Ray, myself, Ray, and myself. I just thought it was funny, the plural myself there. Anyways. I always call myself a we, him, her, and hot. We call ourselves Ryan, just because there's a way to distinguish myself in that manner that's true. That there's a him, that there's a her, and that there's a heart. But that they're one, and that they're Ryan. That's an interesting dynamic, I understand, but I will be able to bring you into the experiences that make that kind of chord structure understandable. And I'm kind of liking that we went so quickly into the pedophile flow, or the flow of equanimity, or the flow of how everything is perfect, even when you move through doubt and insecurity. And even that we get to show the humanness of how it is that I'm presenting this information, that I am very doubtful, or that I'm very insecure about this, so that for the entire duration of moving through whatever we are moving through, that I've had a dissonance occurring with the way in which I observe this. Now, there are some of you that will have this so amazingly balanced to your experience where you see no other way for me to have been. That it was amazingly perfect, all these things, the way you heard it and how it reflected in your direct experience of your present reality where you happen to be watching this. Now that's amazing. That's really phenomenal that that could possibly occur. If you do have any of those occurrences and wish to share them on this channel and wish to give them in comment, you probably bring me to a place in focus. That is a really wonderful place in focus. And because you brought me into that place in focus and brought us through in these kinds of ways, shapes, and forms, then we were really able to understand, what was going on and what was happening. We have a person over here yelling at us, saying hello. Okay, she's got this. Perfect. I was hoping that somebody near us would have it, and so I didn't have to stop what I was doing. And so, moving through in all these different ways, it's interesting. I now have two focuses to where I'm wondering what's happening with this, and what's happening with this, and what's going on with that. It's a really interesting way to be divided in two spots, but kind of still be united in the way in which we express ourselves in a certain manner. Because I've talked about where I am, here, and there, I'm able to be here with where I am, as in the me that's here and there. Here I am. If I'm the doubtful guy, then I'm the doubtful guy. I get to be that. If I'm the angry guy, I get to be the angry guy. If I'm the happy guy, I get to be the happy guy. I'm now seeing that I'm kind of clearing up in fluidity a little bit. We have some different dynamics in flow. Miss Ray Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do, she can feel different things as well. Anybody that's around me, I'm going to feel a different energy. It's going to add a little bit of extra something to the chord shape of the expression, and that's why I do like her being here in a big way. And so we'll be able to move through all kinds of different distinctions, all kinds of different understandings. I'm hearing this lady say something to Miss Ray. It makes me feel like coming in because I'm kind of a confident, dominant kind of a being. And I don't know if she's able to really talk. This lady seems to be like over talking and stuff like that. I don't know. Sometimes people are dominant to other people, and when I have an insecure person as a member of a team, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should be the confident one over there. Hopefully it's all working out good, but I know how people can talk in sideways ways, making themselves seem as if they have righteous distinction on things, and obviously what I'm saying is logical, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if that's actually what's true, if that's actually what's going on here. Let's see what you're trying to imply with your focus of this, that, or the other. And so it'd be nice to be able to speak to those kinds of people, but here I was pretty dedicated to the video. When she come up, I was immediately resistant to hearing anybody because I was so focused on this. Maybe I next time could get up and transfer and say, hey, what's going on with you? Usually I don't like to be disturbed. I guess this was a time in which disturbance could occur, but it's not too big a deal. And whatever's happened here will always be seen as a perfection. So we'll show that in the mirror. We'll show how we've been moving through all kinds of different things. Maybe you'll be able to meet Miss Ray eventually, and it'll be beautiful. Maybe I'll be able to meet the woman. I'm sad that Ray is so unconfident sometimes to where maybe she had a conversation to where we now have to go. I'm not sure. But we're going to find out here in just a second with Miss Ray Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do, the most amazing being in the entire world. Here we go. And also, I'm not quite sure where we were. The other thing came up. I kind of had a big resistance to it, and so you see there's this huge observation going on about it, and we kind of did lose where we were, so I could have got up and went into this other thing. But it's not a big deal. We're learning as we go how to resonate with the flow, and also what we're learning right now is trust that, yes, maybe I could have got up at that time, but I did not. And so we could think maybe something else was possible. But as it turns out, this was the only thing that's possible, and here we are living the perfection of our lives, being in every way of the highest benefit for ourselves and others, and just through our natural, most effortless actions. And we'll see that control and force and regret or resistance in some way, a suppression of energy, is the only reason why volatility ever is occurring. That and our ability to attack and defend. And so if we were to lose our suppressions and allow ourselves to express authentically, honestly in the moment, we would find an inability to have agitation move out of a way in volatility, either physically or subtly emotionally, spiritually, cursingly, through the higher chakra centers or through the lower chakra centers. We can always reside here in the heart, in the present moment, with our breath, our honest authenticity, and that will always leave us in a place of amazing wisdom of non-action. If we come in the way again of attack and defense, of force in any manner, that is why we are occurring any kind of reverberation. And maybe I did that just now. I don't know. We're going to find out, and I'll be sure to be extremely honest with you about it. So, are we still recording?
I can start.
I'm just wondering if we are. Okay, good. We have not run out of video for that entire time, which is a wonderful, beautiful blessing. Amazing thing. All right. Well, as I sit here feeling, I believe that we are done. I was hoping for some kind of like amazing end or tidbit of wisdom that was going to make me feel super phenomenal after this really charged, bright light. But I think it's quite sufficient for now. And we'll find more later. And again, I'm kind of happy that these chord shapes came in kind of early. Because like a lot of people will watch this video and not want to hear from me anymore. And so, in a way, that may seem bad by some. But for me in life, I'm so authentic that I actually don't have people hang around me that I don't want to hang around. And so it's kind of nice if that happens through the video in the beginning. Like maybe somebody watches the first video and thinks, wow, that guy rocks, and then he watches the second video and they're like, I don't think so. And whoever else can see that this is just something that's occurring, that I'm not really doing anything, that I'm breathing this whole time. I told you I'll go into greater explanation with that, I guess, in a later video. I thought I was going to maybe do it today. I really like going into those ones because they like make me look all awesome. But whatever, you know. We'll just let it do whatever it wants to do. We moved through doubt and things like that. We showed a little bit of teaching through the direct experience of it. It happened right here in this moment with us through the spontaneity of what was coming through. Because I allowed consciousness to speak this, we got this particular style teaching that I'm judging and feeling kind of unconfident about. But even that's going to be something that was necessary for me and beneficial for me. And not only will we be able to tell you the stories of our lives and how this has been showing itself very clearly in every way, but we'll also be able to show you, apparently, through the process that is the video. And this is something that happens with me and Ray. I've been coming into big places of awesome, really powerful expressions, poetic song flows, and things like that. And then we hit a place of dissonance or insecurity, and we get to move out through us both, and we both come to a place of amazing confidence afterwards. And so this is what's happening constantly, just through the amazing, effortless flow of radical self-expression. Unconditional love for all beings everywhere without one exception, and a lot of different places and realization that brought us into the sturdying of our hearts in the present moment. So, thank you for everything. I love you with all my heart. I'm glad that ended in kind of a sweet, fluid way. I guess maybe because I was afraid of it not doing that, and then I expressed about it and allowed it to do that a little bit better. Because the tension point of the suppression of it happening was there, that subtle story. And so once that subtle story was spoken, that doubt and insecurity left that story, and now I could come into a place of greater confidence and fluidity without that story, existing beside me, and now I'm able to write a new story. And that new story is not one that I've decided or controlled, just something that, again, flowed with the present moment on its own. So thank you for everything. Love you. Bye.